Has Dawn of War just dropped a huge hint about a Necron unit getting the chop? Dawn of War remains one of the greatest 40k games ever made, only recently surpassed by Space Marine 2 in my opinion. And after two disappointing sequels, Dawn of War 4 pledges to return to the game's roots. It's got loads of gamers excited for its launch later this year, including me. Now, before you switch off, this video is not just a preview for the video game. I believe what we've seen so far gives us a massive clue about the chances of a range refresh for one Necron unit, and sadly, that another one might be going back to the Stasis Crypt. In this video, we'll look at a quick summary of Dawn of War 4, the latest Necron reveals and what we can infer from them, and what the reveals suggest for two Necron units in particular. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll try to reply to them all as always. And if you love talking about Necrons, come and join us in the Discord. It's free. There'll be a link in the pinned comments. Let's start with looking at Dawn of War 4, which is a real-time strategy game that will feature 5 factions fighting it out on the planet of Cronus. That's right, we're getting a good old nostalgia hit going back to Cronus. The Blood Ravens are battling orc hordes, but something else stirs beneath their feet. The Adeptus Mechanicus, ever greedy for forbidden knowledge, have awoken a tomb world under the surface. As the Admech and the beleaguered Blood Ravens battle to suppress the Necron menace, the Dark Angels come to their aid, including their Primarch. That's right, the Lion is going to be playable in this game. Overall, the game already looks incredible with an impressive 70 solo missions, and of course the offer of lots of multiplayer fun with your mates. From what we've seen so far, Necrons definitely feel like Necrons, with self-repair and reanimation during the solo missions, and a scaled-down version of reanimation for multiplayer games that won't be too OP. The developer, King Art Games, hasn't shown off a trailer dedicated to the Necrons yet, but we did get an intriguing update recently. We now know the 15 Necron units at our disposal in-game, or is it actually 16? Let's take a look. This is the unit matrix they've released. Starting from the top row and running left to right, we have got a Chronomancer, Deathmarks, Lokhust Destroyers, Scorpex, Canoptek Doomstalker, and Immortals. On the second row, also left to right, we have got Lichguard, the Monolith, Scarabs, a Scorpek Lord, and Spiders. And on the bottom row, finishing things off, are 4 more units, the Triarch Stalker, Void Dragon, Necron Warriors, and Canoptek Wraiths. And here's what we know about them so far based on what the developer has told us. First up is potentially a named character, as we know that Chronomancer Thothmek is the one who triggers the Tomb World's awakening protocols. In gameplay terms, expect plenty of Cryptek shenanigans such as repositioning units. For the Deathmarks, the stars of GW's Pariah Nexus animation series on WorHammer TV, they look like they'll be more powerful in Dawn of War than they are in the 40k tabletop game at the moment. They'll have Deep Strike and, unlike in 10th edition, will actually be able to kill something. The Scorpek Destroyers, in the gameplay footage we've seen, they look fast, they look deadly, and they look fearsome. They look like proper Scorpeks. When it comes to the Canoptek Doomstalker, old Spindly Boy hasn't been brilliant in 10th edition, but he looks like a genuine anti-tank threat in this game. I'm delighted to see it getting some love, and I'm hoping GW plans the same for Doomstalkers in 11th edition. Moving on to Immortals, they are billed as heavy ranged infantry with potent anti-infantry guns. Pretty much a direct comparison to the tabletop right now. In a similar vein, Lichguard look like elite melee infantry, and they're definitely the anvil to the Scorpek's hammer. They are the highly durable sword and shield variant, so they're here for a good time and a long time on the battlefield. Next up, and I am super excited for this, it's the Monolith! The developers tell us it's a massive, extremely resilient hovering war engine equipped with devastating weaponry and the ability to teleport Necron units into battle. All of that pretty much tracks with what we know on 10th edition monoliths, but it's too easy to kill them in this edition of 40k, so some added durability will be welcome. From the big to the little, we're looking at Scarab Swarms next, and apparently in-game they act as a disruptive melee swarm, so maybe hindering enemy units rather than doing real damage. That's not entirely in keeping with the lore, but I'll take it. I do hope they keep the scribability to self-detonate though. I absolutely love that. Something that definitely does do damage is the Lokhust Destroyer Lord, a firm favourite on the tabletop, and I'm delighted to see it included in this game. Alongside it is a unit that is not seen so often, however, and that is Canoptek Spiders. Now, as in the tabletop game, spiders can protect and repair other Necron units and spawn scarab swarms, and they also get short-range guns. They're joined by the Triarch Stalker, and again, this one looks like it moves pretty fast. According to the developers, it has decent melee prowess and a choice of extremely powerful short-range guns, again tracking from the tabletop. And our set piece is the Catan Shard of the Void Dragon. Each faction has a major threat, and this is ours. Personally, I would have preferred the Nightbringer, but that probably wasn't possible due to the timeline. We only got the new Nightbringer sculpt in December, so they probably didn't want to be giving that game away. Then we've got the backbone of any Necron dynasty, Necron Warriors. It's going to be great to see loads of warriors on the battlefield in this game, and hopefully GW follows this up by making warriors more playable in 11th edition 40k. A unit that has been very playable in 10th edition is Canoptek Wraiths. They are fast, lethal, and capable of phasing in and out of reality. So Wraiths look like they'll be a like-for-like unit from the current 40k edition. Unfortunately, in Dawn of War we can't run them with a Technomancer. And then we come to the last unit and the bonus unit. The last one is Lokhust Destroyers, which are described as a mobile hovering weapons platform equipped with powerful anti-infantry guns. Now on the tabletop, their damage 2 guns are marine killers, so will this translate to the real-time strategy game? More on this later. The extra unit is the Lokhust Heavy Destroyer, which is actually the unit they chose to picture. And this is what prompted me to wonder about a unit refresh for Necrons. Let me explain. The Lokhust Destroyer is an iconic model, but has looked outdated for a while now. It launched in the early 2000s, so is now more than 20 years old as a sculpt. It is still currently available from WorHammer as an online-only purchase, and you buy them as a box of 3, which it calls a squadron. The Lokhust Lord was a conversion kit for a Lokhust Destroyer. Basically, you just bought different arms and head, and that has been out of print for ages. It briefly came back on Made to Order a couple of years ago, I think it was, but it has not been seen since. Meanwhile, the plastic Lokhust Heavy Destroyer, or LHD, came out in 2020 alongside the Silent King and the Canoptek Doomstalker. It's mad to think we've only had a playable Silent King for 6 years. Now, the LHD is a larger, more detailed, and generally more impressive mini than its little brother. And as you know, it has 2 gun options, the tank-busting Gauss Destructor and the Enmitic Exterminator for shredding hordes of infantry. Going back to the Dawn of War reveals, why would the developer choose to show a Lokhust Heavy Destroyer instead of the standard Lokhust in its unit matrix? And I think here we need to look again at how they define Lokhust Destroyers. Wargamer quotes the developers as saying, Lokhust Destroyers are mobile, hovering weapons platforms equipped with powerful anti-infantry guns. Their Lokhust Heavy Destroyer kin can optionally carry even more lethal anti-tank weaponry. I think this is quite telling. There's no mention there that the LHD is a bigger model than the standard Lokhust. Simply that the LHD has an anti-tank gun instead of an anti-infantry gun. So, here's where it gets really interesting. I then went down a massive YouTube rabbit hole. I watched as many YouTube videos as I could find that showed Dawn of War gameplay until I finally found what I was looking for. Check this out. That right there on your screen is a Lokhust Heavy Destroyer with an Enmitic Exterminator, i.e. the anti-infantry gun. That is not the dorky Lokhust Destroyer mini that we know and love. Now, the only reasonable deduction that I can infer from this is that what we call a Lokhust Heavy Destroyer with an Enmitic Exterminator on the tabletop is now called just a Lokhust Destroyer in Dawn of War 4. And here is how I think that's going to impact the tabletop game. I've thought for a while now that in 40k games, the standard Lokhust Destroyer and the heavy variant with the Enmitic gun do a very similar job. They are both designed for killing infantry. I know you could argue the difference between damage 1 and damage 2, but effectively they are targeting very similar units. I have wondered for a while if GW would simply drop the standard destroyer from the codex in 11th edition rather than just do a range refresh, and I think that's the plan, and I think this is their workaround. My guess is in our 11th edition codex that the Lokhust Heavy Destroyer will be the one with the Gauss Destructor. That will be the datasheet. and the Lokhust Destroyer datasheet will be the one with the Enmitic Exterminator. This is exactly in line with what the Dawn of War developers are saying and with the game footage that they've shared. Doing it this way enables GW to retire that old Lokhust kit without accusations from Necron players that we are losing a unit. However, if this is true, it will then also cost us more to buy Lokhust Destroyers. At present, a squadron of 3 Lokhust Destroyers is retailing at £38 sterling, or €50, or $60. That works out at just under £13 each, or €14, or $20. However, the Lokhust Heavy Destroyers are sold individually, and as things stand, one model costs £25, €32.5, or $39. That means that buying 3 Heavy Destroyers is roughly double the price of buying 3 standard Locusts. But it's not all bad news. If I'm right, it also paves the way for a new Lokhust Lord, and this would be good because that would mean the Lokhust Lord would be similar in size and scale to the Lokhust Heavy Destroyer. After all, it doesn't make sense for any Necron Lord to be smaller than his minions, and that is the case at the moment. Now, it's possible, of course, that Dawn of War got permission from GW to change the unit name to keep things simple. That would make sense rather than having to explain which gun variant the LHD was carrying all the time. But that would be a huge departure. In almost every other instance I can think of, GW has insisted that video game developers stick rigidly to the existing IP. Let me know in the comments if you can think of any other instances where GW has allowed developers to break that rule. So, to summarise, my growing belief, based on what we've just been through, is that the existing kind of dorky Lokhust Destroyer kit is going to get retired. I don't think they're going to do a range refresh for that. How they're going to get around it is there will still be 2 datasheets in the Codex, but the Lokhust Destroyer datasheet will be what we consider in 10th edition to be a Lokhust Heavy with the Enmitic Exterminator. And a Lokhust Heavy in 11th edition will be the Lokhust with the Gauss Destructor. Hope that makes sense. It also paves the way for a lovely new Lokhust Lord sculpt, and I'm excited to see that. If we're going to get one, it will probably come out with our Codex, and the rumours I'm hearing so far is that we're going to get an early Codex. So hopefully later in 2026. It'll definitely be after the first ones have dropped like Orcs and Space Marines, but hopefully later this year. All that remains is for me to say a huge thank you to all of my Patreons and YouTube channel members. Without you guys and your support, I simply would not be able to keep making these videos. It means a great deal to me. Thank you so much. And if any of you would like to support the channel, you can do so from as little as £3 per month. That is the starting tier for both Patreon and YouTube channel membership. There's a link to YouTube channel membership in the description, but if you prefer Patreon, drop me a message and I'll sort you out with a link to that too. Right, that wraps up Detective Dan's little investigation today. I hope you've enjoyed that video. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm right, or if you've got an alternative theory. I'd love to hear that. And I'll be back soon with another video.